Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. In this video, I'm just going to be talking about the forum activities in this course, and there are separate videos posted as well discussing the argument assignment and the essay. I decided to break them up this way, so rather than having one long video that you potentially have to scroll through to get to what you want to see, you can just watch each video as you're looking for a little bit more explanation and commentary about what it is I'm looking for in these various sorts of assignments. So the first forum is already up and active on our course website, so let's start there. So in the first week, the forum is an introductory forum. Very low stakes. It's worth the same amount as any other week of forum participation, but I'm not going to make you do as much this week as I want to make you do in future weeks. So it's a good week just to get familiar with how the Moodle interface works. Get a bit of a sense of how this thing functions, and then starting next week, the week of July, what's that going to be? 13th is when we're really going to start getting into the actual films and the course content, and I'm going to be looking for something much more substantive in the forum. So one thing I will say, in this first week, it's really all I'm asking is that you share a little bit of information about yourself, which will be helpful for me, and hopefully it'll help get you to know, at least digitally know, some other people in the course. And then starting next week, I'm not just looking for a personal reflection or something like that, not just that, but rather something argumentative. But we'll get around to talking about that a little bit more after we take a look here. So by now you're probably familiar with the course website. So we've got the introduction to the course up here, which again, this video will probably be linked up there in the future once it's done. And we've got our important course documents and our introductory materials. And then here's where I've got this week 1 forum right down embedded in here. And that's what I'm going to be doing as we're going through the course, basically at the end of a certain amount of content. So next week we're doing the skepticism topic. So I'll be putting that forum right in here, right within that unit. So it's connected in that way. They'll be staggered and placed throughout the course really in order. So just taking a look at it, so to access the forum, to do something with it, go ahead and click on the topic. So in this case, I just called it introductory forum. So you click on that, and then that takes you to the forum page, which has general information about that particular forum you've clicked on. And as you'll see here, there's I tried to write out an explanation of what this forum is for, what are the purposes. Well, introduce yourself to me as well as to your other classmates. Share a little bit of information from your own point of view that's going to be valuable for me just in structuring the course. And really, there's a few questions I'm asking here, which are just here below, and we'll take a look. And then, like I've already mentioned, another purpose is really just to get you familiar with using Moodle forums if you haven't used one before. The interface on them isn't too bad, though it can be just a little bit tricky to get the hang of if you haven't used them before, especially if you haven't used this particular type of forum before. I've already had a couple of people email me saying, I'm having trouble figuring out how exactly I post in the forum. I see it, I understand the instructions, I'm just not sure what to click on. You're not alone. It took me a little bit of time to figure out how to use it properly, so don't feel silly or anything if you're having a bit of trouble figuring it out. So the forums in general, and the forum this week is going to follow the structure as well, so part of this week is just getting used to it. By Friday night before midnight, so 11:59 Mountain Time, right? If Moodle says it's midnight, it's midnight. I'm just going with whatever Moodle says for the time. My suggestion, don't try to post at 11:59. Try to post at the latest at 11:58. 11:57 is even better, or even 56. Or you see where I'm going with this, right? Don't leave it to literally the last second and then email me and, oh, but my computer said it was still 11:59, but the transit time between me and the internet, was 2 seconds too long or something. Do it before then. And in fact, you can do it. So you don't have to wait until Friday to post in these forums. In fact, I encourage you do it earlier in the week if that's when you have time, if that's when you have interest. You get some choice in what you want to post in the forums. This week, really, I'm saying, okay, here's just a set of questions. Just give some short answers to this. In future weeks, the questions and topics you're going to be answering fit more with the films and readings. And there, I'm not asking you to talk about everything in a given week. So if the content on a Monday, Tuesday of a given week really jumps out at you, you say, oh, I've got something interesting to say about this. Great, make your post on Tuesday if I have the forum open. Often I'll open the forum on something like Wednesday during the week, in part because that'll give me time to grade and return the forum for the previous week. And then if you've lost marks on something, you can see what that was and try to correct that issue. On the forums in particular, so the forums are 15% of your grade, shoot for 100%. I intend for these forums to be a place where I can give out a lot of perfect grades, a lot of 100% grades. On written assignments, the essays in particular, getting 100% is extraordinarily difficult. Like really, 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 it is rare there is a piece of writing that has literally nothing in it that could be better and thus warrants a full 100%, right? 99%, certainly, even that has to be a piece of writing that really knocks my socks off. I say, wow, I can't even really find a comma out of place here. It's virtually perfect. The forums are a great place where if you put in some time, follow the formal instructions, put it in the right form, do the right sort of thing, getting 100% week after week is certainly achievable. So if you're getting anything less than that, take a look at where you lost marks, think about that, incorporate that feedback into your next forum response. And if you've got any questions about how to do that, contact me. Send me an email or drop by my office hours. So, okay, that was a little tangential. What I was trying to get at here is that we're following the same format in terms of the deadlines this week as we're on following weeks. So by the Friday night, so just before midnight Friday, you've got to make an initial post in the forum. And then by just before midnight on the following Monday night, you have to respond to at least 2 other people's, in the course, their posts. So in that initial post, you're sharing your own thoughts, you're putting forward a certain view, you're trying to make some connections, you're trying to put forward some kind of set of reasons somehow. In responding to the other people's posts, what you're trying to do is take a look at what they've said and then give them something that's ultimately designed to help make what they're doing better. Now that's the overall idea. And so we've got the staggered format that we go through course content Monday through Thursday. Friday night, you make your initial post, so you've been thinking about things during the week. Take some time. It's probably going to take you a little while each week to do these. I expect them to take some time. Certainly not hours. This week, I think you probably do the forum in 5 minutes for the initial post. For reading other people and answering other people. All told this week, half hour, probably. In future weeks, probably a bit more than that. I think probably something like an hour a week. It might be more, might be less, but you should put some time into your initial forum post, certainly, and then reading what other people have to say and engaging with that in a way that it doesn't just have to be agreement, but something that's going to give them something to work with, something that's going to help them expand on their ideas, make those ideas clearer, something that could contribute to their essays. Now, and so we're going to have that structure throughout the course. So, Monday through Thursday we have course material. Friday, you make your own initial post, and then you could do it on the weekend if you want. I made it due at the end of Monday on purpose so that people have, you do other things on the weekend other than coursework, which is fine. You've got all day Monday evening, Monday during the day, right? You've got on Monday to read through those forums, think about what's being said, offer some fruitful responses. And I'm expecting less less content, I'll put it that way, in the responses than in the initial posts. So really it's that Friday post, the big initial one that should take quite a bit of the work, and then reading through the other posts, making some thoughtful responses will take you some time on the Monday, and then it closes Monday night. I'm not going to be grading it at 2 in the morning on Tuesday, but my plan, my hope is that by Wednesday each week, I'll have the previous week's forum graded and returned. Ideally, it'll be on Tuesday, so it'll be the next day they're back, but it should be back on Wednesday. If there's something funny, something that really slows me down during the week, it might even be Thursday, but I'd really like it to be Wednesday, so then you've got, you get it back, your previous week's forum back by Wednesday, then you've got until the end of Friday night to think about what you want to post, if you need to make any adjustments to that, to be able to contact me and so on. So this week, if you just read through these instructions, it really tells you what to do. You make an initial post, and I've given you 4 credit, or 4 questions that I'm asking, right? So what are your main areas of study or interest? So this could just be, oh, my major is this, or, you know, here's my minor. It could also be, right, just what you're interested in. You don't have to necessarily share like, oh yeah, I'm in nursing. You might say, I'm really interested in geology, but that's not what you're doing. So just, you know, what are your interests generally? What have you been doing or studying? That question is helpful for me, in part because it helps me gauge who's in the course, how much I should explain, particularly when it comes to, you know, different bits of philosophical terminology and so on. The second question is your previous experience with online learning. Have you taken any courses wholly online like this one? That again just helps me figure out how much time I should spend explaining certain things and focusing on certain aspects of the online delivery. Third, your previous experience with philosophy. You know, have you taken any philosophy classes? Are you just generally interested in it? Have you done really anything in it at all? And it's quite fine if you haven't done any of it at all before. Don't be frightened. We're going to take some time this week talking about what philosophy is and how it works and what to expect. But here again, this helps me just think about what I should explain, how much time I should take to engage in certain sorts of topics, and so on. And then fourth, why you're taking this course. And it's perfectly fine to just say, I just need a credit, you know, I'm looking for a GLUR, or I just need a summer course, or, you know, whatever. You don't have to make something up and you know, try to make me feel really good. You know, this was the most exciting course I've ever seen in my life. So, and here again, you know, it's a sort of curiosity, and I think you're going to find a lot of people, there's a lot of overlap often in the motivations people have here. So just be honest. If I want anything from you in this course, it's really, okay, several things, but honesty is the big one. In many ways, I'm open to an awful lot of plurality in people and their attitudes and, you know, what they believe and how they approach issues. But just brutal honesty is the one thing that I just love. So just be honest, right? Even if it's, you know, it's like I've never done philosophy and it sounds pretty stupid. Great, at least you're honest about it. That's really all I can ask. Okay, so and then if you look for the rest of it, I stuck my email down here. If you've got trouble, you know, with the forum activities or anything, send me an email. This particular forum activity is going to be graded out of 8. There's a rubric attached to it as well, and there's a different rubric on the instructions, and we'll get around to that in a moment for future weeks. So just looking at this week, so what do we have to do here? Of course, your interface is going to look a little bit different. I highly doubt you have the grade users button here. But to post in the forum, what you have to do is come down, and then under the discussion here, you have to click on the discussion, the question here that I've posted. So if you've gone into the forum and you're sort of looking around, you're saying, how do I post? How do I respond here? You've got to go over here and you've got to click on that button. And when you do that, it'll take you into it. Now for this week, what I've done is simply just copy and pasted those same instructions that we were just looking at into the forum itself. Now in future weeks, you might see some separation there. There might be a couple of different topics. So the instructions might sort of tell you one thing, okay, here's when it's due, and here are the questions or something like that. And then when you click on the part you're interested in, you might have a specific question or set of questions or instructions in here that you can post on. So in weeks where we have more than one topic, or say more than one film or something, I might separate them out and say, okay, here's 2 different forums and engage in at least one of them this week. I might also just keep them all together. This is really a logistical issue that you know, looking at the course, I'm still trying to think about the best way to do it. This week, I've also just left it wide open that everybody is just all in one place, and that's going to make for a rather long and potentially sort of unwieldy forum this week. In future weeks, I might split the class into a couple of different groups, just sort of randomly assign people, just so you're dealing with a smaller cluster of other people. So instead of having, because we've got 40 people in the course, so instead of having all 40 people, you know, this week making an initial post and 2 responses, it's 120 posts. You're probably going to see it's going to get very, very big, and there's going to be a lot going on in there. I might break it up so you're in groups of about 20 people instead, and then, you know, you're going to have half as much content to engage with and to work through, just so there's a little bit less to read. It's a little bit more focused for you. So now that we're in here, when you go down, so here's what I've posted, right? And so you'll see, right, it's posted by me. It's the introductory forum. It's the very first thing there. And then you go down to the right-hand corner here, and you hit the reply button. And when you hit reply, this is where you can put it in. And in fact, so you can, like, right, hi, everyone. I'm Carl. Here are answers to the questions, right? And honestly, this week, this is all I'm looking for, right? And you can just, question 1, here's my answer. Question 2, here's my answer. 2 things to note. 1, even though I'm in here, so I see Jordan's already replied. Jordan, if you're watching this, well done, thank you. You can't see what other people have posted until you make your own post. That's one interesting thing about these forums. So you can't, especially in future weeks, you can't just look through and say, oh, okay, here's what somebody else said. I'm basically going to say what they said here, and then do it. You have to put in your own post. You have to put your own ideas out there before you can see what other people have posted, and then respond to them. Now, if you go under the advanced settings over here, you'll see it sort of pops up, and you can do a little bit more to it. And in particular, there's normally a half-hour editing delay. And so you've got to hit this send forum post notifications with no editing time delay if you want it to go up immediately. And it's only once your post has gone up that you're going to be able to see what other people have posted. So normally, once you make your post, you're going to have to wait half an hour before you get to see what everybody else has done. But if you go into the advanced settings and click the send forum post notifications with no editing time delay, it's a mouthful, then you can see what other people have posted immediately. So I'm just going to cancel because I don't really need to post anything, but there are already some posts down in there. So just doing this very short version of this again, from the main page of the course, find the forum, click on the forum, scroll down, click on the discussion question. Normally there will be one, there might be a couple, go into that. And then you have to scroll down, and down here on the bottom right is where you've got to hit reply, and that's where you can write back. And that's how you make your posts. And then once other people have posted, you can then respond to them by directly replying to their posts once you've seen them. So that's how you actually make the posts in Boodle. That's what it's going to look like. Like I said, I'm going to be putting them basically throughout the topics, at the end of the topics as we see them. So now let's take a quick look at the assignment instructions, the forum participation instructions. The due date coverage here just really talks about what I said. So initial posts are due Friday. Response posts, 2 response posts to 2 different people are due by the following Monday. Purpose of the forums, really practice skills. And so what I'm trying to get you to do in the forums, this first week is really just, get you comfortable with the forums, get you discussing with a couple of other people. So something I want you to do in the forum this week, which is actually something I did point out before, but it's in the instructions if you look at them. When you respond to 2 other people this week, note a similarity or difference between your response and their response. So take a moment to just say, hey, hi, Carl, I'm so-and-so. I noticed that you have a lot of experience in philosophy. I don't. I haven't done any before. That's sufficient. Just noting some kind of similarity or difference between the posts and briefly introducing yourself to somebody who's really on looking for this week. So, especially in future weeks, I want you practicing the skills you're going to be learning in this course, particularly related to argumentation and expressing yourself in writing. And because the forums are really places for arguments, places for reasoning. That's really what they are. And the forums are also going to help you generate some material you can use in essays. So what you post in the forum for your initial post, what you see other people posting, what you see people responding to you with, you can use that content. In fact, I want you to think about that content in relation to the essays, in relation to the papers, right? If you want to write on a topic, post in the forum first, right? Put some thought into what you're going to say in the forum. See what other people say. See what people say back to your idea that's going to be sort of in its kernel form that you're going to have to develop for the essay and articulate much more length, right? In engaging with each other. Really what I'm evaluating you on is whether or not you have given other people some material, some content that they can think about and work with, something that they can somehow incorporate into their own written work in the course and make their work better in light of it. Now, what you really need to do in the initial posts in the weeks following this week is really outlined right here. So you'll briefly explain some aspect of the course material and make a connection between at least 2 pieces of course material on a given topic, at least 2 pieces. Provide a citation to the texts or films you use. State a thesis. Thesis is a conclusion that clearly connects to the course material and anticipates the reasons you believe support that thesis. Now, I'm going to talk a lot more about, a thesis, conclusion, anticipating the reasons when we're talking about argumentation and particularly the introduction to argumentation later this week. So if you hear that and you sort of go, I'm not really sure what this all means yet, you're going to hear more about it and you're not going to really need to know all of that until the forum, not this week, but the following week. So don't worry too much, but this is the idea, right? In terms of engaging with other people, there's really 3 good things you can do. You can try to give them an additional reason in support of their view. You can raise a good question about what the original poster means or what's going on in the course material, the films and readings. Or you can raise a good objection, some kind of problem for the view that that person is putting forward. So really, what do you need to do in those forum posts in future weeks? Take 2 pieces of course material. It could be 2 films, could be a film and a reading, could be 2 readings. They should be on one topic. There is potential room here for connecting things across topics. I'm open to that. But generally speaking, at least what I have in mind, what I'm anticipating, is that those initial posts are really going to be making connections and making claims about material within a given unit or topic. So next week we've got Inception and The Matrix as well as 3 pieces of writing. So you can make some kind of connection, you can state some kind of thesis that connects those 2 films together, that connects 2 of the readings together, or that connects a film and a reading together. But you get to choose, right? You don't have to talk about every piece of the course material in the forum. Okay, what should it be in terms of length? Well, each initial post is probably going to be a thoughtfully constructed paragraph, right? So a series of sentences. 1 or 2 sentences isn't going to be enough. It doesn't have to be a whole page. In fact, a whole page is probably too much. But a good handful of sentences, maybe, and I hesitate a little here to try to say it exactly because, two sentences can be of 2 very different lengths. So, how many sentences should it be? Probably 4 or 5-ish, but it really depends on how much you're getting done within those sentences. So a thoughtfully constructed paragraph, that's really what we're looking for. Response posts will likely be shorter than the original posts. Here again, probably at least a few sentences because you need to be giving something useful back to that original person. So think about that. It's really a question of what are you getting done with the sentences? You might post 2 sentences and they're great and they're full of interesting content and good ideas and they give that original poster something to really think about in trying to expand on their ideas. You could also have 5 sentences that do nothing, that just sort of say things but don't really give any help. They don't give any additional reasons. They don't raise good questions. They don't raise good objections. They just sort of say, oh yeah, that's kind of interesting and my cat's name is Bill and I really liked the movie and it was very good. Not too interested in that, right? I'm interested in your view, but I'm really interested in your reasons. I'm really interested in your arguments. And here again, we're going to talk more about this. We're talking about the argumentation part later this week. So I'm not looking just for your point of view, right? It's not just like, oh yeah, I like that film, or oh, this reading was kind of boring, right? Okay, look, it might be true, right? That you found the reading boring or the film interesting or what have you. But that in itself, right, your sort of mere point of view, isn't really what we're looking for here. What we're looking for are interpersonal reasons, right? reasons that could be put out there that really anybody in the course or just anybody in general could look at and say, yeah, that's a good reason to believe something is true or to believe something is false, right? And to really engage with that, to exchange reasons with each other, not just opinions. So the weighting, so the participation grade is worth 15% of the total final grade. As I mentioned yesterday, you get 1 free week. So I'm counting 5 weeks of your participation towards the final grade, each week at 3% per week. I highly recommend you engage in the first week's forum. You don't have to. You can skip this week if you want. Like I said, this is a pretty easy week to get your 3%, so go ahead and do that. You could do all 6 weeks and I'll drop your lowest grade, or you can just pick a week where you say, I'm just not interested in the topics of the films, or I'm too busy, or whatever. Right? You can take a free week off if you want. So my recommendation would be to try to do the first 5 weeks of the course. And then if at some point you lose some marks and you say, I really want to make those up, you can do the last week. If you're happy at the end of the 5 weeks, you say, well, I've got the grade I want, you can just skip the last week, right? And which, completely up to you, right? Do what you want, but that's how I'm going to approach it. So I'm going to drop whatever the lowest week is, whether that's you just didn't do it or you participated and lost some marks. So there's a rubric at the bottom of these instructions that will be applied to weeks 2 through 6, and really week 6, the final week. As I mentioned, there's a different rubric for this week. It's posted on the Moodle forum, so you should be able to click on it and access it in there. And really, there's 4 points at stake. 1 point for answering each of the 4 questions I posed, and then 4 points for answering 2 of your peers and noting some similarity or difference in them. So 2 points for each of those responses. There are also example posts in this document. There's really 3 sets of example posts and responses, and I'm not going to read all the way through them. I'll try to wrap this video up pretty shortly here. It's really just to give you some sense of what I'm looking for. So this initial post, so here's an excellent set of posts. Example 1, here's what I'm looking for. Here's what I want to see, right? And what I've done here is posted a connection between a piece of writing called Preventing a Brave New World and a movie, The Sixth Day, a movie about cloning and personal identity. And we are going to talk about personal identity later in this course, and there is going to be some questions about some of these sorts of things, but what's in this particular post doesn't directly translate into, or it doesn't directly apply to any of our course content, so I figured it's pretty safe. And what's going on here? Well, here's my example initial post, and what am I doing? I'm explaining what's going on in the material. So, here is this article. Here's something that the author says. Here's the page reference, right? On page 34 of that piece, that's what he says. In the movie, here's a little bit of a description of what's going on. Here is a reference to the movie, right? I'm talking about a discussion in the film. Here's where it happens, minute 58 to an hour, right? And your timestamps to the film should give me a pretty good sense of where to look. And as I'm grading these things, I very well might have the films in front of me and go to where you say, spot checking, same thing with page references. So don't just make it up, right? Actually put a little bit of work into it. But these don't have to be like absolutely precise to the second. So, and I'm going to be honest, I made up this particular timestamp reference. I'm giving you the example. I didn't actually pull this up in the film, although there is a discussion in the film. I'm just not sure if it's right there. If you're off by a few seconds or 30 seconds or something, if you just kind of take it to the nearest minute, that's probably fine, right? Keep it within a relatively narrow window. I shouldn't have to go spooling through sort of minutes and minutes and minutes to find what it is you're talking about. So if there's a discussion that happens over the course of a few minutes, if there's a statement that gets made somewhere else, so here I've got a particular reference, right, even to the 30 seconds. That one I actually did go and check. Give me something like that, right? Give me a reference that tells me where approximately I should be looking. If it's a scene that goes on for a bit, you can sort of cite the whole scene if it's the whole scene that's relevant. If it's only part of it that's relevant, right, some little discussion or comment or something like that, just give me the reference that picks that out. Basically, the whole idea is that based on the timestamp you give me, I can advance the movie to that point and then see what it is you're talking about within that time frame. So, so that's what I'm doing here. Like I said, you can connect two pieces of writing, you can connect two films instead. Ultimately, what you're trying to do is pull those pieces together and make some kind of connection between them, some kind of conclusion. You're trying to make some kind of statement that you're then supporting with reasons, at least one good reason. Right? And that's really, a thesis is your statement, it's your conclusion, it's the thing you're trying to show. The reasons are what support the thing you're trying to show. Again, I'm going to talk more about this and talking about argumentation. So this is just a very short version of it. So what I want to see in here ultimately is that you're stating some kind of thesis and you're pointing to what sorts of reasons could be given in favor of it. Now, you don't have to fully explain those reasons yet. Really, what's going on in the forum posts is that you are making some kind of condensed statement. You're sort of giving a short paragraph that could be expanded in an essay into a far more detailed and explicit and full discussion. And that's really the whole idea, that in the forums, you're putting forward an idea. You've got a handful of sentences, you've got a short paragraph that is doing something. It's trying to establish a connection. It's pointing to certain reasons. It's showing how at least two pieces of the course material can be pulled together in some kind of way, how one can support the other, or vice versa, or how they connect somehow, or right. You're trying to do something with it, right? Make that connection and support it with reasons. Now, in the response posts, so I've got two different response posts here. Both of them are excellent response posts. These are the kind of things I'm looking for. And as you'll see, the initial post is longer than the response post, though the second response post is fairly long. But the response posts don't have to have citations in them. So that's one big difference between them. And I will be grading you on the citations in the initial post. So take a look at the rubric on that. So there's 6 points at stake each week after the first week. So once we're done the introductory forum, moving forward, there's 6 points at stake for the initial post you make. And then there's 4 points at stake for responding to people. You have to respond to 2 other people. Each of those responses is worth 2 points for a total of 4 points for the responses. And so here, part of what's going on in this first post, what we're getting is another reason to think that the initial post is correct. That's just what it's getting. It's saying, hey, I think you're right. And here's another reason that might support the view you're taking up here, right? And the view in question is that human cloning should be banned. And the second response post, instead of trying to support the initial post, instead it's posing a potential objection. Here's how somebody might say you're wrong. Now, that's quite fine, and you might hesitate a little bit to do that, right? Try to tell somebody else that they're wrong. Note, though, you don't have to tell them that they're actually wrong. What you have to do is point to a potential reason, an objection of some sort, why somebody would think that they're wrong. Right? You don't have to fully endorse what you're posting. Right? I don't really care if you really believe what you're posting in the forums. You can, in some sense, try on what you're posting. Try on those reasons, right? Try on that argument. Say, here's a conclusion, here's a reason that seems to support it, right? Well, what do other people think, right? And you might get people that say, well, here's why that might not work, right? We don't have to be fully committed to everything we say, right? And that's an interesting thought, that for some people, it can be something a little bit new, right? We can experiment, we can try it out, right? Well, here's an argument, here's a set of reasons. Does it really support the conclusion? Is this really a good reason to think that something is this way or that way? Right? Maybe, maybe not. So it's fine to experiment. Right? Keep your focus on the reasoning as well. Right? Don't focus on the people. Like, it's fine to, say, hey, hey, interesting, well done. Like, it's fine to be nice to each other, by all means. That's this way. But especially when you're disagreeing with somebody, you don't have to target them, right? Well, you're an idiot. Whoa, let's stick to the reasons, right? Why might somebody think that's right or wrong? It doesn't even matter if you think that they're right or wrong. It doesn't even matter if the original person really thought that what they were putting forward was right. What matters is that it has the potential to be regarded as right? That is reasonable in some sense. Now, there's an explanation of what's going on and why those are excellent posts. Here again, I'll skip them. Example 2 is some suboptimal posts. So in this case, what's going on is that we're lacking a lot of detail. So in the initial post, it's very short, right? It probably receives some credit, but certainly not full credit. Doesn't have the citations it should. Doesn't really explain what it should. The response posts aren't clear, right? The second response post really it's just sharing, right? Yeah, I think you're right. Okay, that in and of itself doesn't give anybody any reason really to believe anything, right? That you happen to agree with it, right? It's the reasons why you agreed with it that are interesting in the first place. So these posts would receive, and again, take a look at the explanation. Depending on which post we're talking about, some credit, perhaps no credit. Yeah, I think you're right. That's not worth anything. But the initial post would receive some kind of credit. The first response post would receive probably some kind of credit. It's pretty borderline, just because it's not very clear, it's not very detailed. But these posts are on the right track, but they really aren't doing everything that they should. In example 3, this is where we get unacceptable posts. So one thing I am looking for, particularly in the forums where we're engaging with each other, is to be respectful. You can disagree with each other, you can argue, that is fine. But keep the focus on the reasons, keep the focus on the arguments. I don't want to see any personal attacks or anything like that. So look, for instance, in the initial post, right? Anybody who thinks cloning should be illegal is an idiot. So this whole set of posts is about human cloning, right? Whether or not human cloning should be legal or allowed, right? Look, by putting that up there, anybody who thinks cloning should be legal is an idiot. What if one of your classmates thinks that human cloning should be legal, right? Now you're calling them an idiot, right? Response post, right? No, you're an idiot, right? Or no, you're the idiot, right? I don't want to see that. Now you might think, based on some things that people post, right, or things I say, right? You might think I'm an idiot. You might think, some people that, when you're looking at some of the content, some of the people we read, you might think they're idiots or morons or, insert whatever word here. Fine, right? But keep it to yourself. I don't want to see that in the forum, right? So stay away from insults or anything that targets people. Don't target people, right? Target arguments, target reasons. Keep your focus on that. So, and here again, there's some explanation. So read the instructions. The videos are not a full substitute for the instructions, but they should help give you some orientation around them. And then here's the rubric that's being used after the first week. So that first week forum, I'll say it for one last time, has a different scoring to it, different rubric. Answer those questions, engage with at least 2 of your peers, noting some kind of similarity or difference between your initial posts. That's really what I'm looking for in the first week. In future weeks, and if you look back up to the first set of posts and look at the excellent examples, it's really meant to demonstrate this. The initial posts should provide some context, right? So you can get 2 points, 1 point, or no point for each of these. So the initial posts should specify the context, the citation, and the thesis. And then the engagement, these are your posts responding to other people, engagement 1, engagement 2, right? This is where you're engaging with somebody else's forum posts in a respectful and critical manner, and that engagement would help the original poster further their argument. So in the initial post, you've got to do a little bit of explaining, right? Give some people some context, a little bit of background to give them some orientation, right? What should they be doing? Give citations, so you have to be specific, right? Name the specific texts or films you're using. Give a timestamp or a page reference to each of them when you're talking about something specific. Don't just be general. Don't just sort of wave your hands and, oh yeah, this was about this topic, right? Okay, do something more specific with it now. And then the thesis, that's really where you're articulating, you're putting forward some kind of claim that's supported by some kind of reason, which we'll talk more about later. Okay, I hope this has been helpful. I'm going to wrap this up here. I can probably keep going on and on for a considerable amount of time, but that doesn't seem particularly fruitful. So take a look at the instructions. I hope this gives you a better sense of what I want you to do in the forums, gives you an idea of how to actually post in those forums on Moodle. Go ahead and try that this week. If you've got trouble with it, contact me, send me an email. And assuming everything goes well this week in terms of people posting and everything, next week we'll get to it. Like I said, I might just break the class into a couple of groups to sort of randomly assign. And I'll try to, if we do that, I'll try to sort of mix them up a little bit so you're not working with exactly the same people week after week. But there are a few issues in Moodle just with trying to organize that to some extent. And so yeah, that should give you an overview of the forum activities. If you got any questions or concerns or comments or anything, send me an email. Feel free to reach out. And I'll go ahead and stop this here, and I'll be posting separate videos on the other, the argument assignment, as well as the essays. As always, read the instructions. Don't just watch the video. Take the video as a supplementary explanation, give you a bit of orientation and so on. And I'll see you, well, no, I was going to say I'll see you in the next video, but you'll see me in the next video, assuming that you watch it. Hopefully you do. Hope you're doing well. Bye for now.